My stepdad said, if you want to keep living here, you have to pay rent, $2,000 a month. So I bought the house from the real owner that same day. The look on his face when I gave him his eviction letter, it was perfect. I'm 24. I work in tech, and I make good money as a software developer. About 8 months ago, I moved back in with my mom and stepdad for a little while because I was looking for a house to buy in the area. The housing market was wild, and I thought staying with my family would help me save money for a bigger down payment while I looked for the right house. My mom, Lisa, married my stepdad, Greg, about 5 years ago. Greg's always been kind of annoying, but my mom seems happy, so I never say anything. He works in middle management at a factory and acts like he's the boss of a giant tech company. He's always talking about his business strategies and management style, like he's in charge of a huge business, not just 12 people making car parts. The house they live in is actually really nice. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and in a good neighborhood. I always thought Greg owned it because he always talked about property value and owning homes. He kept bragging about how smart he was to buy in that area, how much money the house was worth now, and how owning property makes you rich. I was giving my mom $500 a month to help with groceries and bills, which seemed fair to me. I kept all my stuff in the extra bedroom, did my own laundry, and cleaned up after myself. I was pretty much the perfect guest. I wasn't around much except to sleep because I worked long hours and spent weekends looking at apartments. 2 months ago, I came home from work around 7 o'clock and found Greg sitting at the kitchen table with papers everywhere. He looked super serious, like he was about to give a big business speech.
"We need to talk," he said without looking up. My mom was making dinner and gave me a sorry look, which made me feel nervous. "What's up?" I asked. Greg cleared his throat and started a speech that sounded very practiced. "You've been living here for 6 months now, and this setup isn't working anymore. You're 24, you make good money, and it's time to pay your fair share." I looked at my mom, confused. I thought $500 a month was fair. $500 doesn't even cover the extra bills, Greg said. "You're using the internet, electricity, water, and heat. You're taking up space we could use for something else. This is a business decision." A business decision? "If you want to stay here, you'll have to pay the normal rent for this area, $2,000 a month plus utilities." I almost laughed. $2,000 for one extra bedroom? "This is a great location," Greg said, sliding a piece of paper across the table. "I did research. Rooms in this area rent for $1,800 to $2,200. I'm actually giving you a deal at $2,000. I looked at the paper. He printed out listings from websites, but they were all for full apartments, not single rooms. He was trying to charge me apartment rent for a bedroom in someone else's house. "Greg, these are all full apartments," I said. "Location is location. Housing prices are about size and how close you are to stuff. You get to use the whole house, not just the bedroom." My mom finally spoke. "Maybe we can talk about a lower amount." Greg cut her off. "Lisa, we already talked about this. This is a business decision, not about feelings. Fair price is fair price." I looked at both of them, trying to understand what was happening. "You want me to pay $2,000 for one bedroom?" "I want you to pay the right price for a good location," Greg said. "You can take it or leave it, but those are the rules if you want to keep living here." "And if I don't agree? Then you need to find another place? I'll give you 30 days to decide." He said it like he was doing me a favor. "Can I think about it over the weekend?" I asked. "Of course," Greg said, "but I need your answer by Monday. This is business, nothing personal." I went to my room and started looking things up online. Something about this felt wrong. Why would a stepdad charge his stepson full rent? And why did he keep saying business decision? I went on the county's website where you can search who owns a house. I typed in our address and waited. Greg didn't own the house. My mom didn't either. It was owned by someone named Robert Patterson. They were just renting it. Greg had been pretending to own the house for 5 years. I looked deeper and found out Mr. Patterson owned lots of rental homes. I even found his phone number in a business listing. I spent the weekend thinking about how to make a move. Greg thought he was smart, trying to trick me into paying $2,000 for a room in a house he didn't even own. He was basically trying to rent me a bedroom for more than full apartments cost. Monday morning, I called Mr. Patterson. "Hi, Mr. Patterson. My name's Jake. I'm thinking about buying a rental home and saw you own a few. Would you be interested in selling one?" "Funny you ask. I've been thinking about selling some places. I'm getting older and want less to manage."
He gave me a few addresses, and one was our house. The people living there are good. They always pay on time, but I'd rather sell it to someone who will live there. "How much for that house?" "I'd ask around $360,000, but I'd take that for a fast cash sale." My heart was pounding. I had money saved for a down payment, and I also had investments I could use for cash. "Would you meet with me this week?" "Sure. Are you going to move in or keep the renters?" "I want to move in," I said. "Okay, then I'd have to give them notice. They rent month to month, so 60 days notice would be enough." We planned to meet on Wednesday. Tuesday, I called my bank and investment guy to start getting the money ready. It would take about a week to get the money in cash, but I could do it. Wednesday, I met Mr. Patterson at a coffee shop. He was a nice older man in his 70s who'd been renting out homes for years. "I've wanted to sell that house for a while," he said. "The people are nice, but I'm tired of the work. A cash sale to someone who wants to live there would be great." "What's the rent right now?" "They paid $2,600 a month, and they've been paying that for 3 years. I almost spit out my coffee. Greg was trying to get $2,000 from me while already paying that much for the whole house. "The man, Greg, handles the money stuff," Mr. Patterson said. "He talks about maybe buying the house someday, but never does." We talked for an hour about the house in the area. Mr. Patterson really wanted to sell. "If you're serious, I'd want to move fast," he said. "A cash sale can be done in 3 or 4 weeks if everything goes well." "I'm serious," I said. "I'll show you my money by next week." We shook hands and agreed to meet again Monday. That weekend, I finished cashing out my investments and got papers from the bank to prove I had the money. I also talked to a lawyer about buying a house with people living in it. When you buy the house, you get their lease. But since they rent month to month, you can give them 60 days notice if you want to move in. What if someone is renting a room without permission? That breaks the lease. You can evict them for that. Monday, I met with Mr. Patterson again and showed him the money. He had all the papers ready, even the lease from 5 years ago and the month-to-month change. "We can close in 3 weeks," he said. "Let's do it," I said. We signed the sale papers that afternoon. The house would be mine in 3 weeks. On Tuesday, I told Greg I needed a little more time to think about his rent deal. "Don't take too long," he said. "Other people want the room if you're not serious." "Other people?" "I posted an ad online. Lots of interest at $2,000. This is a great location."
Unbelievable. He was trying to rent my room to strangers and still pretending he owned the house. Over the next 3 weeks, Greg kept getting more proud of his plan. He talked about turning the garage into another rental unit and raising my mom's share of the bills because prices were going up. Closing day went fine. That Friday morning, I became the real owner of the house where my mom and Greg lived. That evening, I came home with all the papers and asked Greg if we could talk. "Have you decided about the rent?" he asked. "Actually, yes. I don't want to pay rent anymore." Greg smiled. "I understand. So when are you moving out?" "I'm not moving out. I'm not paying rent because I'm your landlord now." "What?" I showed him the deed. I bought the house, Greg. I'm your landlord now. He stared at the paper for 30 seconds, then looked up. This is a joke. No joke. I bought it from Mr. Patterson today. My mom walked in and saw Greg holding the paper. What's going on? She asked. Your son thinks he bought our house, Greg said. I didn't think I bought it. I did buy it. You've been renting it for 5 years and tried to charge me $2,000 for a bedroom. My mom looked confused. Greg, what's he talking about? We own this house. Tell her, Greg, I said. Tell her how you've been lying for 5 years. Greg's face turned red. This is crazy. You can't just buy someone's house. You can when they don't own it. I showed him the old lease from Mr. Patterson. You pay $2,600 a month, month to month. My mom read the lease. Her face changed. You told me we owned this house. It's complicated, Greg mumbled. I planned to buy it one day. For 5 years? While telling everyone we already owned it? While bragging about our property? This is nuts. You can't kick us out. We have rights. You do, I said. You also broke the lease by trying to rent out a room without permission. I handed him the notice to leave that my lawyer helped write. You have 60 days to move out. He read it and looked like his brain stopped working. You can't do this. Yes, I can. I'm the owner. You're the tenant. The lease lets me ask you to leave with 60 days of notice if I want to move in. This is revenge, he said. This is business, I said. Nothing personal. Greg's face totally priceless. Just 5 minutes earlier, he thought he was my landlord, trying to take $2,000 from me. Now he was getting kicked out by his stepson from a house he pretended to own. My mom was still staring at the papers. Greg, you've been lying to me for 5 years. I never technically said I owned it.
That was a lie. I'd heard him brag dozens of times.
You did, my mom said. You told everyone we owned this house. You talked about property values and fixing things up. Look, Greg said to me, let's be reasonable. We can figure something out. What kind of deal? You want me to leave? Fine, but Lisa shouldn't suffer because of this. Mom can stay, I said. She can sign a lease with me, $1,500 a month. That covers half my mortgage and is fair for both of us. But you tried to scam me and lied for 5 years. You're out. Greg looked scared. You can't break up a family over this. I'm not. I'm evicting a renter who broke the lease and lied about owning the house. It was a mistake, Greg said. What was the mistake? Trying to charge me $2,000 for a bedroom in a house you don't own? My mom finally said, Greg, start looking for a new place. I need time to think. Lisa, you're not serious. You lied to me for 5 years. You pretended to own a house we're renting. Then you tried to scam my son. I don't even know you anymore. Over the next few weeks, Greg tried everything. He said he'd pay more rent. He said he'd never ask me for anything again. He offered to do yard work for free. But I was done. The eviction happened just like I planned. Greg moved out after 60 days. My mom stayed. She signed a lease with me. $1,500 a month. That covers half my mortgage and is fair for both of us. Greg had to get a 1-bedroom apartment across town because he couldn't afford anything better. Turns out, when you're not living fake rich in a house you don't own, your real money problems show up fast.
Even better, all his co-workers and friends found out the truth. My mom told her side of the family the whole story. Now Greg is the guy who got kicked out by his stepson from a house he never owned. My mom and I are closer now.
She said sorry for Greg's lies and said she should have asked more questions. She filed for divorce last month and looks much happier. As for me, I own a home in a great neighborhood and get rent that helps pay my mortgage. Plus, I have a great story about buying the house my stepdad tried to scam me from. Greg sometimes texts me asking if he can move back in or buy the house cheap because he has history there. I don't answer. Some people never learn that their actions have consequences. The house is already worth more than before. Prices in the area went up about 6%, so I'm doing well. Greg was right about one thing. It is a great house. Too bad he never actually owned it. I kept screenshots of Greg's ad, where he tried to rent my bedroom for $2,000. When I have a bad day, I look at them, and remember the look on his face when I gave him that eviction notice. Totally priceless.